Welcome to Paint a Beautiful Picture. It's good to have you with me today. Today we're going to talk about nurturing your child's self-worth, which is the best way for suicide prevention. It's really the truth. I'm going to tell you a story, and I just could not believe this, but I knew the people who talked about it, so I do know it's true. There was a missionary couple serving overseas, and they had 4 children. 3 of their children were teenagers and an 11-year-old. And something really drastic happened to their daughter, who was their second child. She was 14 years old. She ended up killing herself. So they started to prepare to come back to the United States. They thought that the situation was probably too stressful on their kids. They came back to the United States, and their 16-year-old son committed suicide, only maybe 4 months after his sister had. And they were so grieving and brokenhearted, they weren't really necessarily paying a lot of attention, and their 13-year-old son committed suicide. They lost 3 of their children in about 8 months' time to suicide. They watched their 11-year-old like a hawk, and he did live into adulthood. That might sound just almost unbelievable, but I want to tell you something. Suicide begets suicide, just like life begets life, and someone who copes well can teach another person to cope well. You cannot ever dismiss the power of influence. And so, how in the world do you prevent this? That's a great question. A person who values themselves and values their life, even when they're severely depressed, is far less likely to commit suicide than a person who doesn't really value their life at all. And let's be truthful, Mom and Dad. The predominant source of self-worth in a child is you and me. If your child feels like junk, believes their life is pointless and worthless, doesn't think they have anything worthwhile to contribute to the world, chances are that might have had something to do with you, okay? There are a few exceptions. So another young woman I know, and at her school, she was homecoming queen. She was going to be valedictorian. Beautiful girl. Wow, brilliant, beautiful girl. But her boyfriend broke up with her the night before homecoming. That afternoon, the day of homecoming, she killed herself. Sometimes it isn't just our parents, but it might be our significant other, boyfriend, girlfriend, best friend, who kind of pushes us over the edge. So here's what you need to do. You need to explain to your child, your life is so important. It is important to me, and I believe God has a plan for you, and your life is going to be important to so many people. And until the day that God makes the decision that your life is over, you need to keep going. I'm not telling you it won't be difficult. I'm not telling you won't face challenges you never imagined, because I certainly have. I'm never going to say to you that it's all going to be easy. But I am going to tell you that it's worth it. You have to keep going. When you face something that is so hard, so awful, I am always going to be here for you. Even if you did it yourself, like we talked about earlier in the week, an alcoholic, an addict, they end up selling their body so they have enough money to get a hold of their drug of choice. There are so many things that go in the picture of addiction. But you need to assure them as their mom, their dad, I don't care what you do. I will always love you. And you are so important to me. You have such great value, such great worth. You just have to get that into their heart and their mind and spirit as much as you possibly can. Let me tell you, as we've talked about before, if your words and your life don't go together, they're not going to be believing your words. They're going to believe your life. So you tell them, oh, you're so important to me, and you can't find 3 minutes in the week to spend with them? Wrong answer. You did not tell the truth. Okay, so you do need to tell the truth. You need to speak words of encouragement and support. Then you need to live in a way that backs that up. When those two messages come together, they will trust you. They will rely upon you. And hopefully, by the grace of God, they will come to you and talk to you when things are difficult, when they have big challenges and problems. And they're going to know that you are going to love them right in the middle of the mess. And you are going to care about them and value them even when they might struggle to value themselves. Okay? Another part of doing this, of preventing a kid from committing suicide, is to pay attention. Okay? They're doing this whole goth thing, right? Which is kind of a death culture anyway. So you have this beautiful, vibrant, high school cheerleader, blonde-headed, blue-eyed, and suddenly she's got black all around her eyes, and she dyes her hair pitch black, and she goes and gets a couple of secret tattoos that you find out by mistake one day, and she's hanging around with all these kids, and she just totally goes off the deep end. And trust me, this happens. You need to be paying attention. I think one of the scariest things I'll hear parents say is, oh, it's just a phase they're going through. It might be. This might be a permanent life change. And you better be paying attention to this, and you better intervene sooner rather than later. And that's not about get on their case. What do you think you're doing? I can't stand those new friends of yours. Oh, that's not supportive. But, so can you tell me about your new friend, Alice? Can you describe to me what's going on? You might get the, oh, Mom, get off my back. It's not that big of a thing. But you continue to pursue the conversation. Maybe not right at that minute. You don't want to badger them to death. But you keep on expressing interest in what's going on with you. What's changing? I noticed some changes. I'm not sure I understand them. Can you please help me understand? Okay? You pay attention to your child. You don't leave it alone for a month or two thinking it's just going to go away. Okay? Again, I'm going to remind you, we look at this as a picture of health. You have this big growth that just shows up on your arm. You don't wait for 3 months to see what's going to happen while it's getting bigger and bigger. You get your behind to the doctor. That's just the same with mental health. You see something really significant going on with your child's life, and it's been going on a few weeks or going on a month. Yeah, get in there. Do something about it. Don't just sit around and wait while it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and uglier. And don't do that. Get yourself right in the middle of your kid's life and show them love and show them support. Let them know I'm paying attention and I'm not necessarily loving what I'm seeing right here. Please help me to understand. And you need to address it directly. If you have a child and a friend commits suicide, someone in their school commits suicide, someone in your church does, you need to tell them, this is not a good option. I always tell all my kids, my own children, kids I've taught, kids in classes overseas at university, there is no sense in using a permanent solution to a temporary problem. I don't care how big that problem is. I don't care how overwhelming that problem is. You do not apply a permanent solution, suicide, to a temporary problem. Most kids are really smart enough to understand that one, even adults. I'm going to share something else that you tell your child. We already talked about the cycle of life, but this one is a big deal. And this really, I've battled depression. I've battled being suicidal before. I've never attempted it, I admit, but I certainly have wanted to, and it was my will that stopped me from doing it. But I realized something when I had my first grandson. This is what will always keep me from ever committing suicide, and it's what I know has helped a number of other people. And this is it. The last thing that my children or my grandchildren are going to say about me is not, my mom lived this great life. My granny did the most incredible things. And then she killed herself. That's the end of the story. That's not going to be the end of my story. And that isn't the legacy that I'm going to leave to those that I love. Suicide has so many ripples. It just goes on and on and on and on and on. That's not the ripple effect that I'm going to leave for my family or for the people that love me and the people that know me. I counseled someone recently that was very suicidal. They called me in the middle of the night and they said, tell me why I shouldn't kill myself right now. No kidding. That's exactly what they said to me. And they were compromised. They weren't straight at the time, which is harder to deal with. And I said to them, do you think God's going to be mad at you? And she's like, yeah, I'm so afraid God will send me to hell. I said, do you know what? God loves you no matter what. This is not about you and God. God's going to be okay. It's about you and everybody else. So how are you going to think of that? How are you going to feel about that when your life story ends with, and she killed herself? Is that the story you want your kids telling people all over the place about you? Is that the people at your church? That's what the story you want to hear told about you? Your grandchildren? Your great-grandchildren, when they say, yeah, you know, my grandma so-and-so, she killed herself. She just couldn't handle it. Is that your story? Oh, my word. She started crying. She said, I have never thought of that. Well, guess what? It is our place to help our children think straight. And that's a straight thought. Is that the story of your life? That's really where your story's going to end, right there? Because most people say, no, that's not how I want it to be. Well, you have that power. So don't do it. But the more important thing is to help them see their self-worth. They, as an individual human being, are so important, are so valuable, have so much worth. I don't care if they become a rocket scientist, if they find a cure for leukemia. It is unimportant about that. It is the worth that we have to one another as human beings, the worth of the soul. They need to know their worth and believe in it, and is the best suicide prevention that I've ever seen or known. When I believe that my life is valuable, when you really believe that your life is worth something and you have something to contribute, no matter how far down you get, you're not going to kill yourself, because this life needs to continue on so that those future prospects of what you have to give will happen. And the other thing you need to address with your child when they have someone who commits suicide is, it looks like an easy solution and the pain goes away. But everyone else's pain goes on and on, sometimes for decades. Is that really what you want? Addressing suicide is asking hard questions, and that's a very fair question. I understand in your pain, it's almost unbearable. I do understand that. I have felt that same kind of pain before. I really have. And yet, I had someone hold my hand. I had someone who cared about me. I had someone who believed in me, and I got through it. And oh, my son, oh, my beautiful daughter, I am here with you. I will hold your hand. I will cry with you. I will hold on to you and hug you. I will support you, and we will get through this. Okay? I want you to know, if you don't feel like you're going to be very good at this part, and it's a very difficult topic to discuss with your child, then again, get some help. Okay? Call a prevention hotline. Well, I don't feel like I'm going to kill myself. That's not all those people are there for. You can call them and say, I have a child. I'm really worried about him or her. I don't even know how to talk to them. Can you talk to me? Can you help me? Can you give me some direction? They don't mind helping you out. I think, as we've talked about before, one of the biggest challenges is to admit that we need help and look for it and go get some. There's nothing wrong with this, okay? You walk in the store, you can't find the tapioca. You go find a stock person and ask them, where is this? You ask for help. If you can ask for help about the simple things, you urgently need to learn how to ask for help about the difficult ones. We've already discussed being a parent is a challenging, tough job on the best of days. Get some help. It's really okay. I hope this has been helpful to you. I mean, we barely hit the tip of the iceberg, but I hope that you see and understand that suicide prevention is possible. And you are probably the best person, Dad. You're probably the best person, Mom, to help prevent your child from taking his or her own life. I'm going to address one other thing, and that is peer pressure. There was a young man who committed suicide online with something like a 1,000 kids watching. I wish this was a lie, but it's a fact. He succumbed to that. This is still about your relationship with your child. If that young person really believed that his mom and dad loved him and he was so important, I hope and pray he would have gotten up, told those people they were idiots, and gone and talked to his mom or his dad. But he didn't. So make sure that your children can talk to you, can trust you, can believe in your support toward them, and know that they are so valuable and so important to you and to God. My challenge for you today is this. Have I ever been suicidal? What did I do that worked, that got me through it? And am I paying attention to my child? Because if I am and I start seeing changes, I can intervene early rather than waiting until it's too late. Thank you so much for joining me today on Paint a Beautiful Picture. I hope you have a rich, vibrant, full life and find the value in who you are and who your child is, and love that relationship that you share together. Thank you for joining me. You may find additional information on our paintabeautifulpicture.com website. Additionally, you may watch me on Rumble, and you may also listen to a podcast on Buzzsprout or Spreaker, all under the name Paint a Beautiful Picture. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. You may subscribe, and if you are interested in receiving notifications, please hit the notifications button.